start. Give all the members of this council wisdom and guidance we pray. States of America. One individual for all. Thank you.
Present.
Ms. Underwood? Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Move that we adopt.
Ms. Underwood by Ms. DeWalt. Ms. Dukes-Dean? Ms. DeWald?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Miller-Novak?
Yes.
Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. Blythe?
Yes.
Tonight's for discussion is budget. Maybe losing our power at some point here this evening. So, everybody here, I would like to go ahead and plan for where we meet.
How about
Thursday's no.
Ms. DeWald? Ms. Anderson?
I can't do
Why?
that. Pick it back up tomorrow. Oh, appropriate. I'm not days, but no, I think you need 24. I don't think you can.
I am totally.
Me.
Out on Thursday.
Yes, I am.
I mean, what about Saturday morning?
Works for me.
What time?
Well, a lot more flexibility there. I mean, people want to sleep in 10.
Can't
It's
do.
perfect for me.
I can't do Saturday.
What's
I have my
that?
grand-
For me.
I mean, it'd be awesome for me. I'm not gonna lie. I'd love it.
What happened to?
We could do a little later or a little earlier too.
I can do Saturday, but I can do.
You want to put your microphone down?
I have my grand.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mosby?
obviously, council's going to have to decide what day, but I will tell you that I know I will be out of town on Saturday.
That's not good then.
Anybody?
Having a longer meeting. I mean, from what I recall, we were mostly there. I mean, we talked through a lot of the stuff that's in the budget. I think, Ron, you added something about a little bit for,
Right, I did kind of a presentation, you know, a general overview, and then was certainly going to be open for questions that people would ask. I personally don't have a problem. You're right. I mean, it's already a scheduled meeting. I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it if you wanted to put it under, like, you know, old business or something like that.
Fine with me.
We can.
Mr.
Mr. Mosby,
Clean up.
the cleanup.
I will do my best, as I explained to you earlier. I think that we do have the CMI issue resolved, but that was the only thing that may have been holding us.
Thank you.
just do that.
Well, yeah, it sounds like when we reconvene, or when we're back on Monday, that's the next available time that we can do this. So, I mean, the lights are still on.
So let's,
Can you,
Let's just,
can you do your presentation?
Could, but if it, you know, if it gets cut off, the other thing I wouldn't want to do is necessarily then do it and then have to start all over again, to be brutally honest. If council wants me to, I can at least get started with the overview of it.
that works.
The lights are on, so I think that's probably what we should go ahead and do, sir.
President.
Ms. Dukestein?
So he's doing an overview of the budget?
Yeah, so this is based on our request for him to show us what the major changes were, because a
Oh,
lot of
that's
the
right.
questions were
Okay.
things that were different. Presentation.
Okay.
Then, so if the lights shut off, we will be back in session at our regular scheduled meeting on Monday. We will not have any other, we will not try and reconvene a committee of the whole.
The only thing that I might be bringing up to the HDMI.
Okay.
Yep, he's on.
This is the North fiscal year 2022 budget, sorry. And I used a theme this year, the emergence of social connectivity. So, the question would be social connectivity. Being interconnected at several levels, educationally, socially, in order to provoke change within and among. So as we're doing, as we're discussing, come up in of the meetings and discussions is council established policy. Most people think that policy passing of, which is true, but as well. But itself.
At a microphone. Need to be at a microphone.
So it is through the passing of legislation, which would be, of course, the resolutions and but of course, as a it establishes priority. The administration gives, and then it also issues will be addressed. Some of the things that we about during this. Social theme. So one of the first is through the comprehensive. The comprehensive plan is council me to RFP consult we process as well as also funds for it. So we will then use that, and over the next 12 to 18 months, use the consultant to update and basically overhaul. Hence, have not been council before during the comprehensive plan. What's important to know about that is that the comprehensive plan is not only our blueprint; it's really our business plan. So when we're going to certain, whether it be the federal, asking for what does your plan look like. Typically, it's supposed to be updated every year. The last time ours was updated was 2008, so it's been well outside of the 10. And so by and of course, is our stakeholders provide input on what the community to look like. Second is a development of Dumley Memorial Park, which of course would include the splash pad. When I say include, we're also, as many of you already know, putting in new part of the first phase, and then the second, the installation of the water park itself. But we're overhauling Dumley Memorial Park to really kind of make it the center of our recreational city. At the splash pad is because we no longer have a pool, so we really don't have water facilities that our youth can use, or that we have to use as or for a public purpose. And so that is an important part of many of the sustainability grant opportunities. People are asking, what type of water activities we have, particularly for our residents. This because things that we want to do, and I know the council and our police himself, we want to make sure that our police officers, of course, are continuously developing relationships with the different people in the community, as well as having need in order to affect police. We do want a class police department within our community, one that the stakeholders feel that they can trust. Of course, as you all know, that provides to have a more robust, of course, meaning more full-time firefighters that are dedicated to the city of North College Hill. Why fire department included in this? Because quite frankly, if we're looking at potential businesses to come into our city, one of the things that they're going to want to know is program or a, we have, because that's one of the things that they want to be sure in here, that we have a safety that will be able to respond to their needs. Also, we have what has been included in here, a discretionary community. There have been many questions about a mayor's, and many of the people that I'm referring to have been feedback who have lived here able to us that we in our hands. But also with the community of, many of you were out Christmas tree lighting, just this past was a wonderful event. Actually, to this year, but we're looking included in this when I begin to talk about these community events. The car show, hopefully we'll be able to look at the, because we these things included as far as the events are concerned. Funding available to improve our information technology and to develop a new website. There have been members of council who have our website. Before COVID hit, could having a consultant come in our website. Obviously, in place on the back burner, but now as some of update for technology as well as our website. And then finally, contracting with an economic developer to promote the city as an ideal location for businesses. In other words, making all of these changes. We have had the good fortune of having the award in the Transit Center here. A lot of things that that have been awarded to us. So now, how do we put to package that as a invite owners, and that would be that realizes any would be able to do with us and for us. So I wanted to give before questions were asked about specific areas I did want to put that little bit of background before into the I'll see if there are any questions about that.
We have questions, information about the. Are you talking about getting a whole new program or just fix?
No, we would get a.
Talked about the previous meeting. I wasn't sure. We're fix it because it's the website that we have forward. I know he heard me. Are you?
We're looking to do. I know that people, but also residents, were asking about if certain in order I think we would need the assistance of someone different, a different consultant for that. I'm going to use, which is the budget was given to you that had revised November the 5th. You'll see up here, however, because I was asked by, I would be able to expend to put in here. So as we were talking about this, you'll be able to see that as we go down the basic. The first one, of course, as you all know, the police department is our budget. Down at the bottom, total, you'll see in that 5 million. We're proposing for 2022.9. Also, which is but one of the things that had come to light was that the police portion of the budget was actually over 50%. And if we percentage here from 50% down to 45.1%. So it's actually, even though it's more money, it's actually overall for so some of the things, and again, I'm certainly more than willing to answer questions. I don't know if I'll be able to hit everything. If you do see something, I certainly will do my best to address it. The top part, salaries and benefits. We go down to, however, because someone asked about this a little while ago.
Mr. President.
Ms. Underwood?
For Miss DeWald whispered in my into the Mr. President.
Underwood.
Mr. Mosby, have you emailed us of what, by any chance?
You have the, that's what I was mentioning. What is the version, but I'm using that. So you
we don't have what
you don't
we're-
have the changes that I was just putting
So
in.
the 2019
Yeah,
information.
right. You have the November 5th version minus the 2019.
That's numbers on the screen. So is there, print that out or email?
Yeah. Email it certainly tomorrow. But asking?
Yes, please.
No, that's. Let me just.
So-
But I can do.
There's another column, right? Yeah. Do we have? No?
Mr. President.
Mr. Walters.
That's why I asked if we could have the 2019 for a better comparison.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
sorry, I'm stepping out of line here. I am not a money person. That's why I went to law school. And I'm just trying to follow kind of what's happening. So I'm just, I'm not trying, I'm just trying to, you are. I just along, that's all.
All right, Mr. President.
Mr. Miller Novak.
Yeah, is there? And then through the entire budget, I just don't want it all read to me again. So, I don't know if there's a way. I just point out my feeling was is what council was asking for is major because we don't know hours out here Monday. I feel like there was a lot of questions. We went all the way. People ask questions about different. It seems to be redundant for us to go. If there's just things you want. I mean, first of all, I asked my economic did. I mean, a couple other things that are major changes. Some folks were for.
So of the budget had been fire department 14.3%. Very quickly, major number, if you notice, is the part-time salaries because everything else is transferred. Notice that there was some part-time. The biggest number in there, of course, is going to be the 200 for erecting the splash pad, and then also 30,000 under operating. We will be able to portion of that is to maintain that, but as well as to maintain. Remember, the 200 is going to be a one-time ongoing, but that equates to approximately 5.9% of the budget. Code enforcement is about 2.1%. There was a question that was asked about that, and the vehicle lease. So the vehicle lease is an electric vehicle that would be leased. It would not be bought. The question was asked. I'll tell you it. Two things: A, outlay, or B, we bought. Not get the advantage of being able to basically account for the interest. It would just be lost money. So with the lease, what we can do, lease actually evens out our expenses several years. Lease, it's an expense itself. The other reason that that's under code enforcement is because code enforcement, clearly they're primarily here in the city, so that it would be based on 8 square miles that we have. Someone also asked about the services. Our code enforcement officer, you could more money put in there, and people be, look, can we to really do something that site going to be contract. Supplies and material, because that person will need everything from, you know, correspondence to, Lord have mercy. Sorry, my my breath. To affect in zone. I'm trying to go a little fast. Same thing with building and zone. We, of course, with building that are all of the things for registration. Obviously, he does all of the Board of Zoning Appeals, which will probably have more of those this coming year. That is definitely something that we're looking at. Will be so there is basically a little more that was added into that in order to be able to give him the once again the resources that he would need for the environment is definitely that we wanted funding available things like maintaining trees and green space programs, as well as, you know, operating expenses that we would be able to cover for there. So as you can see, that one is also in there for this particular budget cycle. Basic utility, we have to pay utilities.
Ms. Blythe.
Should we just watch the presentation and then, or should we?
And we'll,
Okay. Utility service. What part, let me get my question right. How much had you reserved to repair the AC unit? Budget?
that would be, it was not basic utilities, are in essence our, you know, basically our bills, our light utility bills and that kind of thing. But once we quote that, it was actually estimated $10,000, so that will probably, in contracting with them, so it won't necessarily in next year's
And then what
budget.
part? What area?
Where it is, but this is a public, this public space. We would probably use some of the funds that we have in our Public Works Fund.
Public Works, okay.
Could we use the city center fund for that?
The city center money that you see for the
Ms. DeWald?
The length, how long that contract is, when will be
I
paid
don't
off?
remember hand, but I will tell you that it came out to be about $1,000 paid 20, I think we're paying like a year, so that's years.
Budget, did you, curious?
Well, in a few years, so basically, Orb was asking about.
So the city.
City.
Ms. DeWald?
I'd like to the leasing a wave of the future for us that we for other departments. And right now, I can't think.
police, an example, that would be that we're for more sustainable and say that to be 100% of our. That's why we want to see how that works out, and then as it progresses, particularly, I don't for Public Works Department at a point in time, and you know, we right now on the car. Some people have tried it. I know I've tried it. It's very quite so it's not. It doesn't have emissions, so that's a great thing as well. But the goal would be, I believe, to start to build out a more sustainable fleet.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
while we're on the topic of the lease, I'm curious. I'm fairly certain was garnered from scenario. I'm wondering if there's any that you see to use some we idle from impound lot and use for code enforcement.
Let me
instead
ask
of
you a question, because
purchasing.
that was here by the time I had gotten here, and I'll be honest, I don't remember. Was that actually received from the from a forfeiture or impound? Because I will be honest.
Well, probably impound lot.
Is
It's a result of
not
no.
necessarily right, because forfeitures are usually a result of, you know, like an arrest that we may have, and then then whatever assets were there were not reclaimed, and then it would be turned over to us, you know, for that purpose. We have used some of our, when possible, forfeitures, really, well, sell to use for other things to help maintain. We have one vehicle to out money for us, decided to sell it. We would have that money and we would be able to use it for maintenance for, you know, other vehicles. So it could be. I don't. I would never say no to. It depends on what we get behind. Is that now, and but when what happens is have to, we call, and then the token to a separate lot, then to us, the lot we get to here, and then the person comes to retrieve to pay us for, you know, during that time. So the revenues would come to us. And one of the reasons that we want to have the impound lot is because, unlike other things that we may be, you know, that might be included in the budget, this is one of those things. Revenues that they would pay for construction of it. Anything else? So let me keep going then. I mentioned mayor and administration. So you can find, as Mr. had asked, and so I do want to point out services amount in there includes development in that $20 for that.
I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Ms.
What line item is
Department 701.52.
That number, and I'll look it up.
Number is the line, well, I don't know, 211, but it's 523703.
Oh, there it is.
So I'm during my presentation, economic development and why essential for us. I actually last time that we met it out that when we're talking about development, plant seeds. Frankly, and what happens is as it's developing, have a person able to make contact and access to the city as long as I agree with this, as long as who can do that relationship, but they also have the to perhaps businesses to the city. Side note, I will we're on social media, people that are on and they see this. That's great that you would, for example, a Macy's, right? The question is come to our city. Right? Well, if we then we would have to be able in such a way that they would say to get a reasonable return on investment. If that does not happen, market, whatever the market. For example, there were about the market, and so that is and property owner made Dollar Tree and again out, this is opportunity. The other things that we have going on, the comprehensive time, someone who is to be working with comprehensive.
Mr. President. Totally wrong. Was getting extra with the X.
After.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr. Moses, something in the proposal now?
Total amount in that line item was 120, but the would be the person would be about 50.
Sorry, Mr. President.
Ms. Anderson?
Sure, do we have?
There's in this year would be in that quote unquote available. When I say available, it doesn't mean that all of that is in the general fund. Some of that would be as a result. Well, a lot of that would be as a result of because what we did with the CARES Act fund money, we did. I'm sorry for the fire. Bid back 160. As you all know, because the early, we also have the that can have particularly of the Recovery Act funds.
Mr. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say if I don't know if this would be a sustainable idea, possibly raising our employees. Some are them the money getting stuff from COVID, but reasonable that held up for the future.
So something that I did omit, Ms. Anderson, I'm glad you brought that up, and I apologize for not saying that when I was going through the presentation. But I think you had about where none were. So when we put the budget together, basically a 2% increase across the board from this year. What we also did in which is what I think council about, so the development one of those special items. Dash pad is another one of those special items. But for the most part, basically, what before you
there's 2% that would be an increase from this year. For our non-class, we would need to do salary ordinance that would 2% raise if we chose to do that. If we need to appropriate that.
that is
Should make, but would designate. That makes, if we didn't get potentially more than necessary, the first step money there, then you can always do if you wanted, or we can approach more. That's conversation, but I agree to do it because our employees that are non-classified have not been a raise since
before I was here. I mean,
yeah.
there have
I mean, no,
they may have two.
yeah, particularly really time. It needs to be done, but there is 2% right now. If we choose to take more money, correct?
That is true. What I wanted to also stress is that something that budgets are, so even have 2% in there, as you pointed out, if you could do more, the frankly, that would come classified is very small. It's not, and it's not even 1%. So you are typically to appreciate are more classified and appreciate some kind of, so I do agree I certainly would agree with you, Mr. Milanovec, right, that the unclassified employees are not part of any kind of a bargaining unit, and so therefore basically council decides what their salary would be.
Mr. And then also 2 questions, if that's okay. I remember that before Mrs. Hall had an in the cock, and what was requested was percent actually to 3% time, and that was for Mrs. Hall. Said we were meeting in came of that meeting. That's the one thing I remembered. And then this is a comment. I think I still see the gentleman that is doing litter cleanup for us. I thought he was just going to be working until the end of summer. That we still have him is permanent or just part-time?
Well, he's still part-time. He is
And it
So,
looks
yes.
good, yeah. And then my other question is learning experience for me. Where at in the budget, what area of the budget, will the $166,000 come from? And is it in this budget plan? What
What you
area of the budget?
Question, you all approved
Mm.
with the last
This is
appropriation.
next year.
Mm-hmm.
So so actually you approved it for the, well, it of course, since it's already been, oh boy, I forgot the word. It hasn't been expended, but it's already appropriated.
Department of the budget.
Well, that
money
money
come
actually,
from?
so that's a good question. That money was actually part of the Recovery Act funds. So the Recovery Act funds we are keeping a separate account of those funds. It is not necessary. It has appropriate. We are separate those funds.
And-
Really into the budget in that.
But it's part of, will it be a part of the 2022 budget?
As we haven't received them yet. So you showed the reflection on that chart that anticipate balance. There was a single spread that like a summary of the funds was on that.
Any
No funds, and I can actually go through this. So because of those Recovery Act funds, they are somewhat limited in what they can be used for.
Yeah,
And so
gotcha.
council, that's why the comprehensive plan was certainly within that, as well as some of the water, like the
Water
splash
park.
pad. The
Great.
So
Okay.
council say going to be whatever, these are the purposes or the ways in which, these particular funds would be spent. And these are different from the CARES Act fund. Someone had asked me about different, be used COVID-19 related, be used for anything else. The are different, so we've accounted for when we do receive, which that is based on the guide, that we have of those funds.
Mr. President. So, to Ms. Underwood, I cannot see numbers up there.
Oh, you don't have it.
I'm curious, can you tell I think dollars for in the economic.
No, I said, I'm sorry, it's 2701.
So if I guess, my math either, because if and you add,
It didn't have, he had, yes, before the 100.
not on what I'm
It
looking
had
at. It had-
860
yeah.
in it or something.
101? Oh, okay.
No, that's one expense. 18.
360.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So,
That's
1836%. Included
Oh, yeah.
the economic development as well as, now I have to go back because the one that I put in there was economic development. Under mayor and administration, basically, I think I shared to allow the mayor for necessary contracted service she may need, or the mayor may, to,
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
again, I'm under, I think some, and I'm not able to follow along with what's happening. So, I apologize to everybody, but I know that the number now, at least my understanding, number now on line 101.37, I think that's how I reference line, is 120,000.
that is correct.
But the copy that I have, 18,003, I'm just trying to buy that different.
So I mentioned that is the that was added, the for development. And then the other part that I earlier was that when I was basically what I for administration contract that we may be able to conduct and to get basically the tools.
And I had actually Marjorie today talk, so let me just echo that, which I kind of did a little bit earlier, but I'm glad that there's at least 2% reflect some move, and there is very important to me. It's the director really present at her, which the causes. I know we under. Sorry, I don't make my mouth so much or food out of your mouth, but because you have 18 and then now it's 120, so presumably that's 1,000 added on. Want some money in there, but I'm going a horse split here, a little horse trading that maybe some of that money we use and we put towards law director, so we can have this is more administration benefit fall under that. Some the council came up when our last meeting about stuff like that. I know a couple council like they didn't get to talk enough. A couple felt. I think so. Right, the half people feeling left out on, so I think that's very important. Number one, and number two, I don't want that maybe you guys a bit more money, ability to get things done, horse by that additional 1,000 that you, and maybe law directing service on as well.
Let me be clear, Mr. Miller, this is simply what I recommend to council.
I know that.
Ultimately, what council decides is recommend. If you choose, giving some example the other day, which is why I said, when I think about the comprehensive plan, I will say that I think that was a perfect example of the cooperation and the teamwork between council and council made a motion to do it. Council then decided who they wanted to choose, and it and it worked well. And then after that, when I brought to the attention money appropriated, council then did the money. Make the council back and carry it out.
I understand the point in time, always at the same, you're ultimately have the job of using them and using it effectively to get things done. So it should be a given. Like, maybe we should take 80,000 from and director so we can, maybe you would say, well, you know what? Came from here for this reason. So I do respect you as the administration see to say they agree and then we hear done, right?
So then, to your point, there would be exactly what you said. Person added there have a say that we should keep that as a reserve.
Mhm.
I would prefer to do it that you recommended. What's in already and just
I would prefer to, because we have all this extra and we should try to maintain as much of it we can. At the same point in time, I feel like if we did that, I'm just kind of guessing that approximately that would still leave $25,000 additional. So that light, I think, we're to give to the law director service. I think that which is on top of what we're already paying him now,
right. So
right?
so to be
Because
right now
there's
we're
already
paying-
the extra.
Director line.
and I didn't have the number.
Hmm. $50.
52
Mr. Scott, trying to think.
No,
Yeah, that would be both of them.
Yes, in other words, a couple of firms.
Here's court.
If you will. Part of
They
the
divvy
law
up the money
director.
that we give them.
Oh, okay.
It's paid out of that.
All right.
That is correct.
Well, by my math, I think we'd need to add 15 to 20 there to make.
How much he would take.
Up here. We do.
This kind of sounds like we're talking about the salary ordinance now. Are we getting into that, or are we staying on the budget?
No, we're
Not all of council with that.
well. Then anybody can voice. I'm voicing mine.
Well, I'll voice mine then. I don't agree with that.
Okay, great.
Mr. President.
That's very dismissive. Thank you.
I can be dismissive too.
Mr. President. Yeah, I mean, I think that more would be great if we can. I just wouldn't want to allocate funds to the position instead of our other unclassified employees. So is there a way to do both? Is anybody to allocate money to the salary ordinance magically? So I would just want to make sure to give everybody and law director. My question.
To make sure that based on what we, is there enough there to both take care of the contract for, or the allocation for the law director, and to give raises to the unclassified? I answer is, of course, that would depend what percent you wanted to pay employees, and do you want every one of them to get? Number one. Number two, of course, would you advocate for law director for the staff actually allocating, which is would, and that happens one of the lines in there. So it would, so that would have an impact, obviously, on
Mr. President. Department Administration. Because I really feel that we're kind of stepping toes working on this. I have a question. The operating, so we add enough money in national 237. We have done operating expenses for 5240. Can you help me why we would have to double that if we're putting more money?
One. We were to send out a new Miss hard copy. That's going to be about one. We have to remember that, unfortunately, the reality is postage prices have gone up. So that would basically get us one of those, plus perhaps the other festivals, as we were talking about. And I didn't include about, the Christmas tree lighting, but the past 2 years, we did a trunk, and which had very good turnout. Even when it been received, and I would think that begin to duplicate that, particularly in light of the fact that I know that the North College Hill schools didn't have certain events.
Because this needs money appropriated. It's about having to do it. It's a process.
I understand completely about the
I'm
budget.
speaking
I don't
right
need to be
now.
scolded
I
or
asked. I got the
criticized in a
floor.
meeting.
I am
don't need to be
speaking. You don't
scolded or
need to interrupt me.
criticized.
Please.
Let me finish my train of thought. Do it. I feel like I kicked the can down the curb for so long to give these people raises. I want the money appropriated. I want it there myself, and I want it there today. I want the money there for the law director. I'm tired about talking about things. Because I decision doing, we leave behind law directing service, or we're not getting what we should get, to pay for it. Just quite frankly tired of people getting what they've decided to not pay for or haven't decided to pay for. Employees, we keep kicking. Don't just commit them for us every day. Years. So they're in the, and right now we appropriate the money and make a very easy decision. Just now, I'd like to appropriate enough money for 3% for non-classified employees. And in the budget, a number, I'd like to move $20,000 item, and the mayor, that we earlier, 3 so department.
Anderson?
I'll second that.
All right, I want percent raises for
Ron,
Actually,
actually, 5237 to move $20,000 from that line item to law director's salary. 521112. It's 3 more minutes.
Ordinance.
Mr. President, can we,
We can't vote, we're in committee.
Is that moved? Dot 523703 with professional service other and the merit version to 101.706.50, which is law director.
it's where, when Mrs. College Hill lawyer is a part of the salary or included with all other 8 to 10 employees. I can't, because is a part of the, so I can't agree to this on 2 separate issues, because when his name is on there as an unclassified employee.
Not a salary ordinance appropriating money. That process, you must appropriate the first, number 1, to make, and then number 2, the ordinance to commit the salaries to the positions. So if we don't do it now, we'd have the salary ordinance appropriated to come back for the budget. Salary ordinance will need to pass the ordinance separate. It's a obligation. We're just budget taking the money.
go ahead.
What'd you say?
Mr. President, I was just going to, we do need to make allocations for increases if that comes about. Agree, no hand. What I'm asking from the new person here, specifically the money to come from, is that not what we want our put money where, and specifically taking it from the mayor's budget. And that just comes from the thought process, and when we previously had talked about the budget, we want to give some of these line items that have been of it particular look full. We want to give space and room for just things. So I guess my is, could we ask Mr. Director wanted to come, be fine with it coming?
Well, again, it could be a combination of things, but I think in terms of simplicity, with Mr. Milanovec, asking for, motioning for dollars to be.
Mr. For clarify. So, Mr. Miller, I'm looking at but the and 20 right. 21, it says pay or 5185 be inconsistent with ordinance that we passed 20.
President.
So we in 20. And in 2020, we decided that we would pay the law director $32,970 here 20. In 2020, it says we paid $0.85 to the director, and we not what we were going to trying to understand that expense from one. Is that what paid him? Because my understanding is that he 50 meeting 50 close to trying to understand what's happening. That's all.
That is a good question. One of the things that you see and I can do, because right track its scope is that when necessary being when that they then for our kind profession. That's what it is. The salary itself doesn't go above what is in the salary.
So, making sure. So, had we just correct me if I agree, that 50,000.
President. Yeah, I think that regular applications available in council which review and labor matters to city unions, the administration, the city's representation of the city. That's which is with law contract is litigation. So it would be like arbitration, where it would come up most. What it would entail, if union member grievance, most likely. I've been in litigation, we've been like and they're not for us. 54, all that is attended meetings. Again, and it's just one of those deals, I hate to say it. They're going to have to hear about hearsay, they can actually time. So
Okay, so,
there's an additional.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. No, I'm kind of just making sure. So, asked us for was 1,000, and that, but pay him for it.
Kinda, yeah. Because I don't think the contract now includes all right?
No,
Negotiations with the
that's not what I'm saying. Is that the contract included all the meetings
kinda, yeah.
close to asking.
Yeah.
Mr. That's all I was going to say in the conclusion of Mr. We need to about it, those services regardless. So us saying no, we're not going to appropriate or give him or agree to the contract, we ended up getting heat. Let's say that are that he worked on and the miscellaneous work ended up being $1,000 different. There were services that did not get to pay. I think the 51. So we one area where we look at that. We need to allocate that not for salary or when I can sound and informed way decide if we would want to increase his contract financial so that we can get
President. Tag $1,000. He didn't.
President?
So if we do exactly what we're paying, and then we trying to make a phone call, I'll be right here for us to direct. My mention of $20,000, you mean to 970.
Mr.
Novak.
Allocated now is basically 32 whatever ends up cost need to more money. I mean, everything you got is spot on. This is what I wanted to do. If someone knows of a to move over, I'm definitely open to that. Looking at the 32, I thought we're looking at, I have just while we were with agreement to it quite ago, and he said he. So that agreement is for 54 even. So we need to appropriate enough money there. 54,000.
I'm just. So would a better motion then be to move over like 4,000, 3,000 into that?
The reason for this is simple. It's, as I understand, 50, but someone could file grievance, have to sit and counsel, create more money to. Yeah, I mean, because
So what was your
That's
original
where
motion
that mayor's
suggestion again?
professional services
20,000?
could come from, right?
I mean, it could if they haven't already spent it. So, but I mean, like the reality, 54 still the mitigation with 54,000. In fact, if someone filed a grievance, hopefully they don't. If they did, we wouldn't have enough money for that litigation.
Be included, right?
It would not.
That's
Why
the
we need a
point.
little extra on the contract price itself, because we normally do, right? Because the contract's 32, and Ron's
Actually-
always allocated more money in case we negotiate. Went beyond contract. We had enough up to pay their expense. Contract negotiations. I mean, we can. Doesn't have to put money into the law. Salary to account to pay. Does
Mr.
that make
President.
sense?
So proposed is 52,1 for 2020. 20,000, 72,107. Ms. Anderson.
So even if we put all that money in there, I mean, let's say that nobody does file anything and we just have an extra there. It can be used for other stuff still.
At the end of the
Right.
year, into the following year, or the year, and we needed to cover
So
some
if we're-
other thing.
In this pot just in save it for just in case or just in put it in here later to allocate it. They have to take time. I don't there's that way.
Mr. President.
Was-
And just a couple, and that's 'cause I emailed it to everybody, to their email. That actually, indirectly, Ms. Anderson brought it up, and then directly, Mr. Milanovac brought up. So, for me to include the two I did, and when you look at, you see, is that 1,000 director said there's another 68 that was paid professional services. Look at that total amount. It's out. Happened here. We just have. Fortunately, we here is we serious that we've had to there the last, but that was a large additional cost was. So when we're looking at the work that would be done or included in the scope of that. I do think that it would be, give him that would arrange. So, and I don't know what happen, and we just have no idea, but at least we're able to have something that would cover services. We wouldn't have in 2019.
So, time clock.
Right, so inform me that we are on the clock.
Mr. President. Mr. President, to like anybody that disagrees to jump in there. I think we're all kind of now on the same page in terms of realizing that we paid a la carte for things that were umbrellaed under the contract. I think now what we're talking cover legal services that may or may not be out there 2022. Correct?
Yes, so currently there would be roughly $18,000 over that contract proposal would still be on to cover other.
We need,
So, I'm sorry, go ahead. I mean, did you have more?
I was just gonna say, so we probably another motion, because when your previous motion, correct?
Some
With
extra
18,000
additional if needed or something.
So, get the, Ms. Dukes,
Yes.
Asking him to amend back to council, it's not a vote approved. It's not a vote anything. It's not even, it's just, there has to be some way for us to communicate him liberation process we want him to make. Liberation, fairest way to do it. If someone proposed that to me, I mean, it doesn't have to, but at the time, we're in public, we deliver and where we want, and this is the best way.
yeah, so I just want to see if I have the majority of the room to go along with this, to guide Mr. Mosby to. So, Ms. DeWalt,
Just
classified
then
employee
I,
in that line item for law director. Ms. Underwood,
I agree.
Mr. Miller Novak,
Yeah, I think
Ms.
I'll
Zorb?
do it.
I'm not going to be a part of this vote.
Ms. Blythe, Ms.
Clarify, everybody. Of us do not communicate with him what our wishes are. Happen in public committee meeting. That's the purpose of a committee of the. Do it. Actually, this really don't do.
We're allowed. That's why you're a
Well,
lawyer.
that's why you like
I mean,
did what your
We're
wish
not-
is.
I do want to bring the number they're referring to, proposed number. So our 20 target $1,085. The $52,700 include some, we should, whatever we do, $1,085. The actual expense. Look at the one percentage of a raise.
When we're basing it with the contract, right?
Yes.
Not over or plus wiggle room there. And if we don't use it, and we'll have more money.
It off of
No, we need
Miss-
to base it on retail.
Mr. About, we ended up spending the money. He texted him during this, our operating, to see if he was contract for 54,000 even. Then or the 54, basing it off of that is because that is the amount of the contract that he would agree to if that he had offered before. So anything short of that, we would not be able to contract.
off of 50, which would be it is 51,000. Adding 20,000.
Be clear in that 51,000. Already paying him like 32 for the
Correct,
contract. so
correct.
There's about 19,000 additional.
And we've contracted need to pay.
President, can I just, so I
Yeah, go
appreciate
ahead.
what, we're not at the end of the 30, the $51 seeing basically through, really talking about, you still have to be accounted. So it's going to end up,
I'm, the 15 is then.
I said earlier that when I did look at that, and Ms. Underwood brought it up, that the money that she was referring to, I can make it broken out, because we do. If you, well, I'm sorry, you don't have. Under, I've pointed out that in he in 60 firm above contract.
Mr. President, I'd like to go back to the very beginning of this evening when we asked what his see like impound lot, which see that number presented until you told us. So Monday night, could we have a better picture added to this particular budget?
Which I a little bit tough for me, because when I'm 100 sure, but people, the long say this. Actually 200 from the, in other words, that $200 would have before used to pay for the department. When that essence to which is exactly why people are saying there was extra. It's not just, it was needed for the, so as said, putting it in our areas where we really have not had funding before. So that's why you did see the in the administrative department, there was some additional recreation, as you all saw before, code and zoning, so that we would be able to have, so we would be able to operate, with to achieve the results that asking for. Specifically, I'm, for example, in code enforcement. If people complying, to have more, basically more out.
Okay, we know we're near, going to go out. I think it would be meeting on Monday.
Sounds good. Thank